1 to 2, maybe 3 sessions. Collaborative problem identification. Okay, so then you have the 4 problem areas. And then establish goals. That's what you're doing within the first couple of sessions. It's just collaborative problem identification and establishing some goals. All right? And then we have then here kind of our transition where you formulate here, formulate what you think's going on. Very much like we did with Jackie yesterday. This is what I think's going on. This is what I think's related to your depression. This is what I think's related to the problems that you started having with your eating is, a time early on in your life when you really felt like that you were really missing out. You felt like you weren't being seen. You felt like you were feeling really disconnected, which you get really isolated and you're having a tendency to eat. It's not an issue at that point about like what started the eating, because she clearly said yesterday, like, well, I'd be working out all the time. I'd be doing all this, doing all that. I'd go home and I'd overeat. I felt really uncomfortable one time, and so I started to vomit. Okay, fine, great. Not like who cares, but it's irrelevant. Because okay, that happens, and so we could get into dissecting the excessive physical activity, the lack of eating, the restriction, blah 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 blah. But what's keeping it going? And what's keeping it going was it became a way to somewhere along there the connection was made between feeling better, soothing yourself, and binging and purging. And it really then became a way to soothe, to comfort, to feel better, especially at these times when your interpersonal relationships were not clicking, or when you felt bad. So then okay, so this is the formulation. And then we move into, okay, I got it, this is what's going on. Do you see what I'm seeing? Yes. This makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, so really what we're wanting to do is really help you start finding ways that you can, like with, who was your best friend? In the first scenario, who was your best friend?
Erica.
Erica. Clarifying with Erica, checking in with her. Sometimes I feel when we're together like that somehow or other that I'm less important to you. And I know that might be crazy, but I really just want to check that out with you. Or, are there other people later in her life, in college, that she has a similar feeling with? Is there that one person that you can connect with and feel close to where you could really check out some of your concerns about, sometimes I just feel like I'm not important, or I'm not important to you, or that I'm not an important friend to you. And seek clarification and finding ways to broaden your social network where you feel more secure. Again, because that's the point. You're feeling insecure. You're feeling like you're not an important person. And so then how do you do that? So that really becomes a part of the formulation. Then you're setting some goals. Okay, this is what I want you to do. We're going to really be working on this, because as we work on this, okay, and so then you need to really stress that work leads to symptom reduction. Okay, that's really critical. And I keep having to pester my therapist all the time about this, and pester my VA people about this all the time. Is that's the one piece that everybody always misses over and over and over again, is that you have to keep bringing up all the time that their work is going to lead to reductions in symptoms. You have to do it. And you almost have to do it, and I'll put it over here too. Work leads to symptom reduction. Because it's in that connection, and to me, again, I know I keep going over this and saying it, but it's that collaborative problem identification and the collaborative formulation of goals. Both of you are seeing the same thing. And then you're saying, if you work on this, and you say it here too, if we work on this, your symptoms are going to abate. Because these symptoms are related to this problem. And if we work on this problem, you're going to experience a reduction in symptoms. Plain and simple. That is the most distilled element of IPT that I can think about. Is that if we work on this problem, it's going to lead to a reduction in symptoms. It just is going to happen. And you have to trust that. And that's part of, from yesterday when we were talking about it, Andrea, that's part of I was kind of pushing you, okay, do you buy this idea? And people fundamentally have to buy that idea. Because I think in this kind of more, ephemeral world that we live in therapy, that we think about things like that. We think about these important relationships between symptoms and psychopathology, well, not psychopathology and symptoms, but relational issues or early childhood relational issues, childhood problematic behavior and symptoms. But we don't think about it in the present. We think about it as a concept, because of our training. We think about it from a dynamic perspective, because if if we queried everybody, do past traumatic experiences have an influence on behavior? Yes. We get like a 95% yes on that one. But do you buy it in the day-to-day? Do you buy it that these problematic interpersonal patterns continue to activate symptoms? And some people would say yes, some people would say no, or some people would struggle with that, because that's when you get into kind of like therapeutic, ideas and ideals. But that's it. That's what you're doing. Identify problems, establish goals, formulate a plan, let them know that if they work on these goals, they're going to experience symptom reduction. Transition into phase 2. Okay, now what we're going to be doing, now that we're on board, you know what you're doing, I know what I'm doing, we know what we're focused on. So for the next few sessions, every session, we're going to be coming in, I'm going to be asking you how things have been going during the week, and we're going to be really focused on these problems that we've talked about. So we're going to be collaboratively working on this problem area, and again, as you work on this, you're going to notice a reduction in your symptoms. If there's time, which, more often than not, there won't be, but if there's time, you would roll over into a phase 3 and say, we've only got a couple more weeks of work together. And I was thinking that, the next session, and this is exactly what you say, for the next couple of sessions, I really want to review the great work that you've done. Let's talk about the changes that you've made, the work that you've really done on your the goals that we established. And I also too want to start getting you thinking about the fact that we're not going to be working together maybe for the next 3 months until you come back to school next year, or after break. But I really want you to get working on. Have us start thinking too about what's been hard. What are you continuing to struggle with? What are the things that are continuing to be problem areas for you? Because let's think through. And again, almost like from a behavioral relapse prevention perspective, where you're wanting to put relapse into kind of these more interpersonal terms, like what are the red flags? What's the Achilles heel? When you get stressed out, your tendency is going to be to resort to, eating in particular with eating disorders. When you're getting stressed out, when things get ramped up in your relationships, or when this happens or this happens, your default is going to be to find yourself, wanting to binge or wanting to purge. And in those moments, you really kind of need to stop yourself and review the things that we've really worked really hard on, and that is that who do you need to connect with, who do you need to talk to, who do you need to seek out in terms of assistance. So, but again, you may not have that luxury, and so where I would, if I were you, you got 6 sessions, because if you've got that, and you've got some established goals, in many respects, you're setting them up to be able to be potentially successful, because you're giving them, like, look, we're both seeing this. Your binge eating, your bulimia, your depression is pretty clearly related to, episodes of times when it's difficult for you to transition. It's been pretty clearly related to the ongoing conflict that you're having at home, or the grief that you experience with the death of, or the fact that it's like that ever since you've come to school, you've just been lonely and isolated, you've had a really difficult time making connections with other people. And when you find yourself feeling lonely and isolated, those are the times when it's really right for you to find yourself withdrawing, getting really depressed, and really, kind of having a tough go. Or those are the times when you're really likely to turn to food because it's, comforting, it's been there for you, it's a friend, but it's like it's really been really destructive for you. And so this is really what I'm really encouraging you to do. We really need to get you connecting with other people. We really need to get you involved, in something more, kind of social. Because if we do that, you're going to be less likely to be turning to food. So that if you could do nothing else within your 6 sessions, that's what where I'd put my money. And I wouldn't, like we were talking about yesterday about the problem that we all struggle with is, we all have a problem with this. we don't have enough of it. And at your center and other centers, you don't have enough time to do the work that you really need to get done. You know, and with the intensity of the things that you have to do and accomplish, they're not giving you enough time to do it. And so, you know, and I guess what we were saying, and I was picking up on that yesterday, and I was thinking about it as well, you can take one of two approaches. That is that you just take each session as its own session and do kind of like triage, crisis intervention, just take whatever comes in the door. Well, today I'm feeling happy. Today I'm anxious about a test. Today I had a good interaction with my roommate. Oh, great, you know, but so then every day is this kind of just this snapshot, you know, or you could continue to do whatever you do theoretically and whether or not it helps or not, or you could take more like what I would suggest here is taking this more of an interpersonal approach where you maintain a degree of focus, identify a problem and really focus in on it, and that's all you can do. But at least you feel like that you're being mindful to their concerns when they came in the door, because you didn't put the concern on them. You didn't say, they didn't come in the door and you know, said, well, I'm feeling really sad. Well, actually, you're not really feeling sad. What's going on with you is this, and this is what you need to work on. It's like, no, you're attending to their symptom. You're saying, look, I see this as well. This is what it is. This is what we can work on. Let's do it. And, you know,